Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Secrets of the Viz. Today we have Bartek with us, who created the Viz of the day, Stanislaw Lem. Forgive me if I butcher the name. So today he's coming to talk through his design process and how he created the Viz. So welcome Bartek.
Hi everybody, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
To get us started, what do you do at HLL?
Yeah, I have two main fields of focus. Firstly, I work with UX, so I design the dashboards. I work with clients. I host discovery workshops, trying to find what they need. And then also, I work with front end. Most of the times I work with Tableau, but recently I've been working a lot with QuickSight. It's very nice to change your tool from time to time because you can grow tired of working with the same one. But BI is broad, right?
That's true. Today, we want to talk about your Viz that you create. Talk us through how you decided on this chart type and the design inspiration behind it.
Works that I create most of the time are things that you would like to hang on a wall. So these are posters, infographics. I'm just toying with the idea of how to present data in an interesting way for people that don't work with data on a regular basis. When I was a kid, I live next to a library. This is my collection of the Stanislaw Lem books. This is the most popular Polish writer, I feel. He was translated to many languages and was very influential. Many of his works can be read by kids.
I'm not a huge reader, but he sounds delightful. I love sci-fi and I like comedies. I think those two just checks the marks for me, so I might check out.
Yeah, please do. So Stanislaw Lem is a sci-fi author. Since he wrote a lot, and there was a lot of adaptations, maybe Stanislaw Lem is like a central figure, and his work, these are like planets circling around him. So let's think about like a solar system sort of thing. They used color palette of Starfield. That was a very popular game in that time, and it really uses a Mesa style color palette.
I really like how you use Figma as a repository for your ideas and putting all your references like a mood board, if you will. Yeah, with the color schemes and inspiration on how you want to draw the planets. That had a very lasting effect on your final design. How would you say that the relationship between Figma and Tableau, for data viz creators, would be like?
Tableau is great for creating infographics from dashboard, but if you don't have something in mind, it's not that easy to move the objects around. You can't really scroll back to see the whole picture. There's like a set screen resolution when the visits are too big for my screen to see everything at once. It's difficult to visualize how it should look like. So Figma is easy to test your ideas.
Yeah, I think some of the data frame community members also use Figma for dashboard mockups, framings, and you get to see how it looks like before you start designing in Tableau, because sometimes formatting in Tableau takes a lot of work. It actually could take up like an entire weeks of work, and you could do that in a couple of minutes in Figma. Just to play around, how would this color look, or how would this logo look like if you put it on the left versus the right and stuff like that.
Exactly. Okay. The biggest problem is to collect the data. Most of the times, this is the data source. I had to go in and adapt it into Excel. Each piece, year, name, description. And that takes a lot of time.
Was it all manual entry, or did you use a web scraping tool?
Sometimes I do, but this is a trade-off because sometimes it takes as much time for me to do it manually, right? So I check what is the length, what is the size of the data. So it depends. Sometimes there are big sources of data that the web scraper has to go, or maybe there's another way to get this data. Okay, so I just divided the lifespan of the yacht into 5-year circles. There are other circles that are more dark. These are the ones after death, because there are works that were released after Stanislaw Lem's death, because he was so influential. I know for a fact that there are years in Lem's life when he published more than one book. There was more than one book and adaptation. Yes, I can't have 1 point is a year, that won't fly. I was thinking, okay, I say each cycle is 31 points. This is point 1 or point 0. These are the dates, because I wanted it to be understandable. So you see, 90-20, 90-25, 90-30, and then each second one. So you get the idea. These are years. Every point has a unique ID. There's like an ellipse number. Each ellipse is from 0 to 30. I calculate the radius. I know the size of the initial ellipse. I know the spacing. This is the circle divided by 31. The angle I also know. I change it to radians, and having radians, I can calculate x and y.
I think a lot of get scared of playing around with circles in Tableau, but the formula is pretty fixed because it's math. So once you understand the concept behind x uses sine, y uses cosine, and you have radians, and everything just falls into place. At the end of the day, Tableau is a blank canvas with x and y. So if you can visualize it, you can pretty much draw it. It's just understanding the math behind it.
Yeah, exactly. So one day I will create a 3D chart, maybe spaced one, but not today.
I'm looking forward to
that. One step at a time. So that's the template for the data. I created a holding template with events. So I got year, event. Either this is life event, Lem is born, Lem die, or I divide them into type of work. This is like adaptation, fiction, non-fiction, because he wrote a lot of fiction about the internet, about technology in general, whether it's good or bad. If you scroll down, there are red rows, right? These are the places where there's more than one thing. 1961, 4 objects. Really hardworking author, I would say. I didn't want to assign points manually. So I just created this calculation that checks which point is that, and that assigns a random actual ID point. And it worked really well. And what's interesting is what I added to it. We've got the actual data, we've got event, year, event description. There's my comment, because I've read a lot of books and I've seen a number of media connected with Lem, not everything. And when I was working on this, I couldn't remember whether I read it or not. For example, there are some books that I have and I didn't finish, right? It happens. So when I was sure that I've read it, I just commented it. What I remember about this, because I've been reading Lem for like 20 years now, for sure.
Yeah, just looking at this, I love how you added your personal comments, because it adds that personal story to the list itself. And I would say your work is probably 30% design and 70% data cleaning and just putting the data together. And I'm sure you had a lot of fun reminiscing on his work.
That's right. And we can finally go to Tableau and put it all together. So I used my Figma project as a background. The buttons I designed in Figma. That's a great thing with Tableau, that you can just design your own objects, be it shapes, and use them as buttons. Like when I started, I didn't know how to do it, so I used, and they are okay. But if you have a vision, I would say design the buttons. And I think this is it, really.
So just a call out to that, because Tableau doesn't render some of the custom fonts when you public. So this is why Bartek has done this text in Figma and imported it as an image to work as a link. But I think with 2024.2, which is coming out probably in the next few months, they are incorporating more Google fonts. Hopefully that will help us unlock more design inspirations from everyone, and we don't have to do text like this in the future.
That's another thing I found after I created this thing about minds think alike. Somebody thought about it, and that's the same idea basically in 3D. So if you are not convinced with a 2D, you're a 3D person, go there.
Maybe I will see you replicate this in Tableau one day.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I had in mind. Not there yet, but I'll be there hopefully.
Sounds good. Thank you, Bartek, for spending time with us today. Another episode of Secrets of the Viz. I hope everyone learned something new, I'm sure, because there's a lot of math, a lot of how we can use Figma to supercharge your whole design process with Tableau. And I hope everyone will give it a try as well. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for listening. Take care.